Have you ever felt like your entire world was shifting, even though nothing around you had physically changed? That feeling of internal chaos, coupled with a strange sense of expansion, might be the beginning of a spiritual awakening. This experience isn't about suddenly becoming enlightened or floating above daily problems. It's a deep, sometimes painful unraveling of the layers that have kept you disconnected from your true essence. A spiritual awakening begins when your perception of life starts to transform. Things that once seemed important, career ambitions, material goals, external validation, lose their grip. Simultaneously, you begin to crave something intangible: truth, meaning, depth. It's not always graceful. In fact, for many, it starts with emotional turmoil, confusion, or even depression. What you're experiencing is not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. The intensity comes from your inner world clashing with the identity you've built over years. You might feel isolated, misunderstood, or overwhelmed. These sensations aren't signs of failure. They're indicators that your soul is awakening to something much greater. The systems and patterns you relied on start to fall away, making space for a more authentic version of you to emerge. This shift can happen gradually or arrive like a storm. It can be triggered by trauma, loss, spiritual exploration, or even subtle dissatisfaction with life. Regardless of the cause, it initiates a process where your awareness expands beyond logic and enters a realm guided by intuition and deeper knowing. Understanding that what you're going through is not random is essential. It's a natural stage in human evolution that many resist out of fear. But once you recognize it for what it is, you can begin to navigate the process with greater clarity and less fear. Awakening is not an escape from life. It's the beginning of truly living it. One of the first signs of a spiritual awakening is an overwhelming sense of detachment from the life you once knew. The friendships, routines, and environments that used to bring comfort may now feel foreign or draining. This shift often leads to confusion. Why do you suddenly feel out of place in your own story? This disconnection isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's your soul signaling that you're outgrowing the structures built around an outdated version of yourself. The goals that used to motivate you no longer inspire action. Conversations that once felt engaging now seem superficial or empty. Even your own thoughts begin to change as your inner voice grows louder than external expectations. This phase can feel isolating. As your internal compass shifts, relationships might become strained. Others may not understand the changes happening within you, especially if they're still operating from the same patterns you're now questioning. You might find yourself retreating from social activities, craving solitude without knowing why. It's important to understand that this withdrawal isn't regression, it's recalibration. Your consciousness is moving into deeper alignment, and the things that once resonated with an older version of you must be released. You're not losing your identity, you're shedding what was never fully yours to begin with. During this time, many people feel a strong urge to make drastic life changes. Some leave careers, end long-term relationships, or relocate. While these decisions might seem sudden from the outside, they often stem from an inner knowing that life must reflect truth, not obligation. What matters most in this stage is allowing the distance between you and your old life to expand naturally. Don't rush to fill the void. Let clarity arrive on its own terms. You are not falling apart. You are making room for who you truly are. This discomfort is a sign of transformation, not loss. As your spiritual awakening unfolds, your sensitivity to energy intensifies in ways that can be both enlightening and overwhelming. Everyday interactions, environments, and even casual conversations begin to affect you more deeply. What once felt neutral now stirs emotional waves, subtle tension, or even physical discomfort. You may find yourself absorbing the moods of others without realizing it. Crowded places might drain your energy, and noise that previously went unnoticed suddenly becomes unbearable. These heightened sensitivities aren't weaknesses, they're indicators that your awareness is expanding beyond surface-level perception. Your nervous system is tuning into frequencies you previously ignored. This stage often marks the beginning of energetic discernment. You start to recognize which people uplift you and which ones leave you feeling depleted. You notice how certain foods, music, or media affect your emotional and mental state. This awareness can feel overwhelming at first, especially if you haven't yet developed tools to manage it. It's crucial during this time to create boundaries, both energetic and emotional. Start by limiting exposure to environments that trigger anxiety or exhaustion. Practice grounding techniques like mindful breathing, walking in nature, or silent meditation to help stabilize your inner state. Keeping a journal can also help track patterns and triggers, giving you clearer insight into your personal energetic rhythm. Sensitivity doesn't mean fragility. It's a sign of inner awakening. Your intuition is sharpening, and your body is becoming a more accurate compass for truth. This sensitivity allows you to feel deeply, empathize authentically, and connect with others from a place of genuine presence. But to use this gift effectively, you must learn to protect and care for it. Navigating this stage requires compassion for yourself. There may be moments when you feel overly emotional or reactive, but these are signals of internal calibration. As you learn to distinguish your energy from that of others, you gain a powerful sense of inner authority. What once felt chaotic begins to make sense, not because the world changed, but because you did. One of the most unmistakable signs of a spiritual awakening is the sudden and persistent desire to understand your deeper purpose. Even if your life appears successful by conventional standards, an inner emptiness begins to grow, one that no external achievement or possession can fill. You start to question everything: your career, your relationships, your beliefs, and even your definition of success. This inner pull toward meaning is not a phase or fleeting curiosity. It's a profound shift in consciousness that signals your soul's longing to express itself through authenticity. You begin seeking experiences that feel aligned, not just impressive. The idea of living on autopilot becomes unbearable. Surface-level goals lose their appeal, and your focus turns inward toward the timeless questions. Why am I here? What am I meant to offer? This craving for purpose often leads to a period of exploration. You might dive into spiritual teachings, psychology, mysticism, or healing modalities. Books that once seemed irrelevant now feel like lifelines. Conversations become deeper, more intentional. You may feel called to help others, create art, change careers, or contribute to something bigger than yourself. But with this yearning often comes frustration. The answers you seek don't arrive all at once. The path may feel unclear, and you might doubt your direction. That's because spiritual purpose isn't discovered through logic. It unfolds through experience. It's not about what you do, it's about who you become in the process of doing it. During this phase, it's important to stay open. Avoid the pressure to define your purpose too quickly. Instead, pay attention to what energizes you, what breaks your heart, and what brings you peace. These are clues. Purpose is rarely loud or obvious. More often, it whispers through intuition, nudging you toward alignment step by step. This hunger for meaning is not something to suppress or fix. It's the sacred call of your soul inviting you into a life that feels real. When honored, it leads to fulfillment that external validation could never replicate. It marks the beginning of living with intention, integrity, and inner truth. During a spiritual awakening, the universe begins to communicate in subtle yet undeniable ways. You start noticing patterns that defy logic, repeating numbers, meaningful coincidences, unexpected encounters, and symbolic dreams. These synchronicities aren't random. They're messages designed to guide you, affirm your path, and draw your attention to something deeper unfolding. Seeing the same number sequence over and over, like 1111 or 222, can feel strange at first. You might brush it off as coincidence, but it continues. Songs play at the exact moment you're thinking of someone. A stranger says something that answers a question you've been holding inside. You open a book and land on the one paragraph that speaks directly to your current situation. This increase in meaningful coincidences is a sign that your awareness is expanding. You're beginning to operate on a more intuitive level, attuned to energies and messages that were always present but previously ignored. The outer world starts to mirror your inner state, revealing connections between thought, intention, and manifestation. These signs often arrive when you're at a crossroads or asking for guidance. The key is to stay receptive without obsessing over interpretation. Not every number or event has a hidden message, but when something consistently captures your attention, it's worth exploring. Ask yourself what it evokes emotionally. What does it seem to confirm or challenge within you? Synchronicities act as gentle affirmations from the universe. They help you trust the process, especially when logic fails to offer comfort. They also encourage you to slow down and become more present, to observe rather than control. When you acknowledge them, you strengthen your relationship with your intuitive self. This phase can feel magical, even surreal. You begin to realize that reality is far more interactive and responsive than you were taught to believe. These signs don't just appear to impress or entertain. They're there to remind you that you're not alone, that your path is unfolding with purpose, and that something greater is walking beside you every step of the way. Perhaps the most intense phase of a spiritual awakening is what many refer to as the ego death. It's not a physical death, but rather the unraveling of the identity you've built around fear, control, and separation. The roles you've played, the stories you've believed, and the masks you've worn start to disintegrate, often through emotional collapse. You may experience sudden waves of grief, anxiety, or despair without a clear cause. Moments of clarity are followed by confusion. What once felt certain now seems hollow. These emotional breakdowns are not signs of mental failure. They're signs that your internal structures are collapsing to make room for something more real. The ego thrives on predictability and validation. When a spiritual awakening begins dismantling its illusions, the ego fights back, trying to hold on to control. This resistance creates inattention, manifesting as fatigue, identity crisis, or emotional exhaustion. But no matter how painful, this confrontation is necessary for growth. You cannot fully awaken while still clinging to a false self. During this phase, you may feel disconnected from your sense of identity. Questions like, who am I without my achievements, relationships, or beliefs, become constant companions. This is not an ending, but a rebirth. You're shedding the outdated versions of yourself that were built to survive, not to thrive. It's essential during this time to allow your emotions to surface without judgment. Avoid rushing to fix yourself. The depth of your emotions is not a weakness, it's a cleansing. Tears are not breakdowns, they are breakthroughs. Each release makes space for a clearer, more grounded version of you to emerge. Support is vital. Whether through therapy, spiritual mentorship, or simply speaking with someone who understands the process, sharing your experience reduces isolation. Remember, you're not alone. Many go through this invisible storm before stepping into their true alignment. What follows ego death is authenticity. When the layers fall away, what remains is real, your soul unfiltered. The breakdown leads to a breakthrough not of the mind, but of the heart. And from that place, a new life begins. Navigating a spiritual awakening is not about achieving perfection or enlightenment overnight. It's about learning how to live with more awareness, integrity, and connection to your inner self. Once you recognize the signs, the next step is not to control the journey, but to support it with intention and care. Begin by creating space for reflection. Set aside time each day, even if just a few minutes, to connect with your thoughts and emotions without distraction. Journaling can help you track your growth, identify recurring patterns, and process insights. Meditation, even in its simplest form, allows you to become familiar with your inner silence and intuition. Honor your body throughout this transformation. Awakening is not only mental and emotional, it is physical. Fatigue, body aches, or changes in appetite are common. Prioritize rest, nourishing food, and movement that feels restorative. Your nervous system is recalibrating, and grounding your energy through nature or breathwork can bring clarity when things feel chaotic. Surround yourself with support that aligns with your journey. This might mean seeking guidance from a mentor, joining a spiritual community, or simply connecting with friends who respect your growth. Avoid forcing others to understand your path. Not everyone will. That's okay. This is your awakening, and it doesn't require validation to be real. Be mindful of the urge to rush. Spiritual awakening is not a destination. It's a lifelong unfolding. Clarity arrives in waves, not in straight lines. You may revisit old wounds, face new questions, or encounter moments of doubt. These are not setbacks. They are reminders that awakening is not about escaping the human experience. It's about embracing it with consciousness. Most importantly, trust yourself. Your intuition is your compass now. No external authority knows your soul better than you do. The more you listen inwardly, the clearer your next steps become. Growth may be uncomfortable, but it leads to freedom. What begins as disorientation transforms into alignment, purpose, and peace. This is not the end of your awakening. It's the beginning of a life rooted in truth. If this content made sense to you, don't stop here. Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future content. Now, watch this next video where I'll show you another essential step to transform your reality.